There is one question everyone is asking about with the xTool O1 Omni, the dual UV model. And it's the most obvious one. Since it has two print heads, does that mean it prints twice as fast as the single UV version? Or at least does it print faster in general? So I went actually looking for xTool's answer to that. And what I found, or really what I didn't find, was pretty interesting. So I'm going to show you all of that with receipts. Okay, so really good information coming. I just want to say up front that I don't have this machine in my office yet. As you can see, I have a lot of other machines, but I don't have this one yet. I will be getting it shortly. Now, nobody actually has it other than beta testers, and they have the machines because they are testing. They're taxing the speed, all kinds of things, and then providing that information back to techs and developers at xTool so that changes can be made. That's the whole point of beta testing. I've actually done it a ton over my 15 years for machines and software. It's the best way to go, and they always end up getting the best quality when you do that. Now, xTool actually pushed back their launch from earlier this summer. So it is coming, but it's just going to be a little later than normal. And this is what xTool has actually said themselves about the speed. And the speed may actually be one of the things that has caused that delay. So we'll see. So here's the thing that a lot of people are staring at. The single UV edition starts at $16.99. The dual V, the one with the two heads, starts at $26.99. That's a $2,000, that's $1,000 difference. So the whole pitch of the dual print head is, does it make sense for me to spend an extra $1,000 for it? If the answer is, well, it prints faster, then for a busy shop that wants to crank out UV stickers, wraps, custom UV prints, it's probably worth it, right? Because time is money, and we all know that. So let's see what xTool is actually saying the benefit of that second UV print head actually is. Now, before we start, I want to just keep a few things in mind about the print heads themselves. Okay, so this is really important. So the single head UV has 6 slots, 6 125 milliliter cartridges, CMYK and white and varnish. The dual head has that same setup in the first head, and then it has the second head, but it only actually has 4 ink slots. So it has two 290 cartridges, one for rigid white, one for flexible white, and then a fluorescent red and a fluorescent yellow. Now, remember, for UV printing, a white base is laid down first, and then the CMYK is on top of that, and then gloss. DTF is actually opposite, with white last. I will say white is actually beneficial even on white surfaces because it helps avoid blotchy prints and gives you a better UV print quality. I always say lay at least one layer of white down, even if you're using a white surface. Okay, so back to Omni. I think the question that we all want is that second print head going to speed up printing since there's white in both print heads? We all really assume this, right? And I think the reason why is because it came from xTool to begin with. So I want to start with where this came from specifically. A lot of us, including myself, assumed that 2 print heads means faster printing. And we didn't make that up. xTool told us that's actually just how this technology works. So let's go back about 5 months before this even launched, right? xTool made a post on their own Reddit. So let's look at this post. First, it is specifically called single head versus dual head, why we went with the over-engineered route for the xTool UV printer. So at this point, there's no name for it, and they are self-proclaiming it over-engineered. Now, if we look at this right here, what we're going to look at is it says, for years, desktop UV printing faced a critical compromise. You either have quality or speed, rarely both. But with the xTool UV printer, so this next part we're talking about the xTool UV printer, for the first time, creators and small businesses can access industrial grade speed and precision without the traditional trade-offs associated with single head printers. What makes dual head technology such a game changer, and why has it been so difficult to achieve at scale? It really comes down to 2 core technical shifts, and then they talk about it, right? So they talk about that there's more effective jetting capacity, and they talk about that there are print mode switches, right? So then they start talking about the benefits. This is their first big reveal of the dual head feature. And the claim is really big, okay, right? Like they're showing us, and I'm gonna show you here exactly what they said. They said that the printer lays the base, the color, and the gloss all in a single pass, and that you are, quote, cutting production time by 50%, end quote. And then they wrote this: for small businesses, that means doubling your output in the same time frame. Doubling your output. That is a big speed claim that they have ever made. That's the biggest. And it's public right here on their Reddit. Okay, this is their own Reddit. Now, on their own dual head blog post from April, it echoes that. It says the immediate advantage of dual head UV printing is speed, and that it, quote, cuts production time by nearly half. It's unclear here, though, if they're talking about their UV dual head printer, referring to any dual head printer, because they say the advantage of a dual head UV printer is speed. Or are they just explaining the concepts of dual head printing in general? That question, you kind of have to, you don't even really have to read between the lines. It's just, it's unknown. We don't know what they're really saying here. So that's the origin. 50% faster, doubling your output, okay? I want you to keep those things in mind as we keep chatting and watch kind of what happens as you read closely, because there are two more things to point out here. So, one, it is not clear if 50% was ever the promise about the machine that you are actually going to be able to buy, or if xTool is just saying this is the potential it could be, right? Because that's how it works. If you have two print heads, one can do one thing, one can do the other. Now, here's something else. In that same Reddit post, right at the top, xTool literally says, dual heads doesn't mean two heads equals faster. So they're telling us, don't assume that having two print heads means you print twice as fast. And then they tie the real benefit back to white heavy jobs, fewer print mode switches, and 3D texture work. So they're being careful here, not everyday flat printing may print faster. So even in their boldest pitch, the fine print kind of scopes it down, okay? So it's really important that we read what they're saying and what they're not saying. Now, before anyone thinks this is me bashing xTool, it is not. So let me say this up front, because I think we all need to keep this in mind. Products change while they're being developed. That is normal. That is how it's supposed to work. If you got the first version of it, it would be terrible. A company shares the direction they're going, they test, they learn, they get beta feedback. They even delayed their launch in this case to put out a quality machine, right? Or in this case, a set of machines, because we are getting three machines. And we are currently in that very last step, right? After beta testing has presumably finished up. So things are changing. They're even changing as we speak. It is not unusual. It is not a red flag. There's no duping here. That's the way the process is supposed to work. What I care about and what you should care about, though, as a buyer is this. What is true today? You want to know that so you can make a smart buying decision, not a buying decision based on what was the hope 6 months ago and may have had to change during the development process. So let's check the current stuff. Let's look at everything that xTool has described publicly about this machine and the various models, what they are actually going to be doing, the one that comes in the box that's about to ship. Okay, so first things first, we are going to start with the official launch press release that was put out on June 29th. A press release, if you're not familiar, is an official statement from a company. They actually pay to have it distributed. Think of it like a written press conference. You literally gather up all the journalists or whoever is interested, Google, if you're doing a press release, you tell them what you want them to know. That is the point of a press release. And as a former news producer, I can tell you I've read many press releases. Okay, so xTool actually released 3 press releases on June 29th and then 2 in the couple following days. One was in English, and then there were 2 foreign language, I think it was French and German. I converted them and they all basically say the same thing. So speed shows up in 2 spots in the press release. In one, xTool says creators can configure the system for dual UV printing to unlock advanced multi-layered effects and accelerated production speed. Awesome, right? But what they don't really explain is the print condition. So we don't know if there's texture, if there's no texture. We don't know if it's draft, high speed, whatever. Or they also don't say what the speed efficiency is over the single head. So they aren't really putting a number on the acceleration speed claim. So we don't really know. In the other mention of speed in the press release, they say the dual head delivers a massive leap in productivity over same class competitors. So this time they do compare it to competitors. So we know that they're not comparing it between different Omni models, right? So we know they're not talking about the single head versus the dual head. They're talking about other ones. There is no mention in any of this about doubling the speed or 50% increase like we saw a couple months ago. Now in the launch press release, they did, like I said, mention acceleration speed kind of generally and compared it to other brands. So kind of softening the speed mention. Okay, now what else can we gather from what xTool has put out? On July 3rd, xTool posted their own guide in their official Omni Facebook group. And the title is, which xTool O1 Omni edition is actually right for you? Perfect. Here's how they describe the dual UV. It is best for creators who want more advanced UV applications and special effects. It's almost as important to look at what they don't spell out as what they do. So to me, speed is not mentioned, but it is the biggest question. And in general, they are not touting increased speed. So it's really interesting that they're not mentioning it here at all. They're talking about special effects instead. So I don't know why. I really don't know why. Okay, so maybe that was a one-off, but that same post actually had a comparison chart with it. And this is actually the only place anywhere that xTool puts the single UV next to the dual UV, specifically on head-to-head on speed. So watch what this row is called. So there's a lot of different rows here you can see, but this one is not listed as print speed or production speed. It's actually written, and I want to get this exactly right, is texture printing speed. Single UV is listed as medium, dual is listed as fastest. So the head-to-head comparison that they are making is boxed in or is specific to texture. That's 3D raised work. That's not your everyday flat coaster or sign. For that, there's no row, there's no number of what's faster. So we don't really know. Now, it doesn't mean it's not faster on the dual head UV. It just means they're not calling out the general speed. They're only specifically saying when you're printing texture, it's fastest on the dual UV. Okay, so let's see what the full spec sheet looks like. And this we find on xTool's Omni's website. This one includes 15 different rows, lots of specs and information, including the models, the working area, printhead resolution, weight, software, ink channels, all that kind of stuff. Lots of technical stuff. But there's no print speed related row anywhere. Okay, so we don't even have the texture related thing. The line for the dual head UV is best for repeats that same thing that the chart said. Best for creators focused on advanced UV application and neon effects. Now further down, there's also an FAQ section. One of the FAQs is, what are the main differences between the three editions? And which one should I choose? The answer describes the dual head UV again. I'm repeating myself, but this is what it says. Best for creators focused on advanced UV applications, supports exclusive fluorescent color effects and soft white ink for printing on both rigid and flexible materials, including leather and canvas. Again, there's nothing about speed. There's not. I mean, So when you look closely at all of these things, the blog posts, the official statements on xTool's social media, the press release, the product pages, the speed benefit has kind of softened all along the way, or has been qualified more and more the closer that we get to launch. So why is there this change? Why go from the dual heads is giving you double your output to barely mentioning speed at all? Honestly, I do not know. But one thing that I do know is printing speed is very difficult to state at all, because are you referring to draft mode, high quality, texture, 2 layers of white, 4 layers of white, bilateral printing, unilateral printing? There are so many variables that go into printing speed. To put it down to one number is nearly impossible. So it is very possible that they backed off of a hard number simply because there isn't one honest number to give, especially when you're talking about 3 different models of this machine, all that share one print head and then 2 that have specialty print heads, right? So it's very, very difficult, and that is my best guess. Now, xTool kind of gave us a warning about this. So here is a theory, not necessarily mine. xTool is the one that actually put this out. So again, we're going to go back to Reddit, where in their post, well, they had a couple posts, but way back when they did that first reveal, xTool told us then one of the hardest parts of dual head printing is they called it extremely hard to engineer well because it needs precise high-speed mechanical alignment and calibration for sub-millimeter tolerances. And if any part is off, you will get ghosting, color fringing, or uneven ink coverage. So from day one, they knew, and we knew, that running 2 print heads fast and keeping them aligned perfectly is very, very challenging. And not just for them, this is just in general. Then they released, they reiterated that, right? So they put out another Reddit post just relatively recently called Good News and an Apology. You should go read it.
There's a couple of things that I want to point out here, all right? Now, they reiterate, we are developing a first of its kind alignment solution. Now, in this context, it does appear that they are talking more about image alignment because they say that we are developing a first of a kind alignment solution designed to go beyond traditional camera-based positioning. This technology is also expected to unlock a new experience. And then they go on talking about the rotary alignment on curved objects and reliability. So that doesn't have anything to do with speed or anything. But if you keep reading, they do say that this, meaning this alignment, has been one of the most technically demanding parts of the project. And to reach the level of precision and user experience that they want to deliver, we have spent significant time testing, calibrating, and optimizing the system. Okay, now remember, this is a blog post or Reddit post, talking about why there is a delay. And they are being very upfront and transparent, and they are saying that we have spent more time refining key areas, okay? So along with the alignment, they also talk about the dual head system. Here, they say that the Omni printer uses a dual head system. Obviously, that's just in the UV dual head and then the UV plus DT, but we're just specifically talking about the one that has the 2 UV printers. So, the Omni printer uses a dual head system, which gives it the potential to support richer ink options. So more ink options, we know that specialty, and more printing possibilities. This is a pretty, it's not explained. We don't know what the printing possibilities really mean when they write it here. But with that comes more validation around ink compatibility, aging, and long-term stability. Our goal is not just to add more functions on paper. We want to deliver a product that feels complete, stable, and easy to use in real workflows. So again, they're calling out that dual head system and they're saying that it has been challenging, but they are not at all in this context referring to anything to do with speed. It's all about giving more ink options and also more printing possibilities. Could that include increased speed? It certainly could. It could also include pretty much anything because that leaves it pretty open.
I will give xTool credit here because they're genuinely being upfront and transparent in this post. In the same post, they describe the dual head saying it gives it the potential to support richer ink options and more print possibilities. Now, is the dual head actually going to be faster than the single head? We know it's going to be faster than the competition, but what about head to head? For everyday flat printing, most of us do here, the honest answer is xTool isn't saying one way or the other right now. So if an overall speed benefit was a real selling point of the dual UV printer, I would think that they would be basically screaming that from the rooftops, but they're qualifying it around texture and instead really marketing the special effects. And I will say that the fluorescent ink options will give your colors a much wider color gamut, flexible ink expands what you can really UV print on significantly. So those are big benefits, but it's not the obvious one that I think most of us thought. It's just not clear from anything that xTool has put out recently around the time of the launch if that double wide rigid ink cartridge in the dual head can be used to speed up printing when you are laying down a base layer of white and printing CMYK on that and not necessarily adding texture. Okay, so we don't know yet. Here's what I am going to do. The second I get this machine, and they will send it to me very soon, the second it's here in my office, I will run real speed tests. Actual tests, I will use a stopwatch, I will look at, I will run side by side and I will check the alignment. While I'm at it, since that's what xTool says they have been perfecting, we want to know, has it been worth the wait? And I think it will be. So you can finally get a straight answer of if the dual head is faster and by how much. If you want to subscribe so you don't miss it, make sure you hit the links below or hit the button below. And if you are weighing the single versus the dual right now, at least you know what xTool has and hasn't committed to. So you want to buy it for the effects, the extras, because that's what they are actually selling. So just make sure that when you do purchase, you make that purchase and that decision based on what they have put out most recently. Because as I said, things change all the time in product development. Okay, guys, I will put more information, links, and everything in the description below. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments. I will be doing lots of videos on the O1 Omni, and that's it for today.